Hello and welcome. My name is Alan. Today we are going to talk just a bit about what I've got going on. I've never been big on the whole gardening aspect. Most people hear garden, they think flowers. I think food. Uh, Other people go, well, farms where you get food. Farms a big area. If you make and grow your own food in your home patch, that's a garden. A farm is these huge places. At least in the way I've always viewed it. But since I was young, we've always had a garden that I can remember growing all the different food, the corn, the beans, the peas, the squash, the okra, mustard, lettuce, cabbage. You know, these were pretty much the basics you grew in the garden. Now, as times went on, here in the last few years, we've not really done much in the realm of gardening. And when I was younger, I always had to at least help out a little bit in the garden. But as I've said, as I've gotten older, I've started to get back into let me grow some individual plants. Let me get them started. And so that's what I've done this year. I've planted some individual plants, and I'm starting small. I won't right now. I'm just growing some natural herbs on my windowsill, right beside me here. I've got some small uh, planters of basil and cilantro, and outside in a bigger planter, I've got some garlic, which that garlic's growing well, which I knew it would. At least I kind of hoped. But you have wild garlic out in the yard here, so I kind of figured if I plant some, it's going to grow pretty well. Um, but now we're looking at uh, expanding into the other areas. I've got some seeds for some straight eight cucumbers, which are the bumpless, longer variety of cucumber, and some beefsteak tomatoes, which are your really big, fat tomatoes. So, we're planning to grow them in their own pots. And the cucumbers, we're going to let grow up some of the lettuce on the outside of the porch to my apartment. And if I do grow some of these fairly good sizes, this might be something I really am interested in getting into, growing some of my own plants. I'm not a big go out every day and garden guy, but I like having some things grow, like, wild or planted basil and cilantro and the garlic, And if we can get the vegetables to kind of start sprouting and everything, uh, it'll be wonderful. But with the way the weather has been here recently, it's the spring this year it's one of those few years where I don't know if I want to leave winter behind or head straight into summer. Now, there have been years in my youth where there were late snows and even up into April and stuff. But yeah, we're looking at a couple days here in the 60s, and at night it's going to get down into the 30s. And this is the kind of thing that makes gardening difficult when your plants can't get big enough and healthy enough because the weather keeps fluctuating so much. Because it was always one of the dangers if you planted too early in the year that a late frost would kill off your garden and you would have to start again. Yeah, but I really want to see how this goes. I'm kind of anxious, but it's got me worried where we're gonna where this has been just kind of spring where it's like, do I want to go into summer already or still hang around with winter? Because the last several years it's went pretty quickly to summer. I remember every once in a while there's a year like this, but I hadn't seen one in a long time. And yeah, it's going to make it interesting to try to get some of these plants to grow or continue growing. I was finally starting, like I said, garlic was already coming up. It was looking bright and beautiful. But the basil only had a few sprouts, and I'd starting to see one cilantro peeking up. So, but I've got a few other small planters and plenty more herb seeds if I have to go that route again. Um, but I'm kind of anxious to see how it does. Sometimes you have to start from the ground up, even though, like I said, even from the time when I was a kid, we had cucumbers and tomatoes and corn and beans and cabbage and peas and squash and okra and all that. But I'm going to work on leveling things up. I'm going to grow herbs and a few veggies. Um, but I'm also considering maybe a fruit vine like blackberry, raspberry, because you can find wild raspberry, wild blackberry around here. So it's a potentiality if I want to try to get a vine really rolling. That's another one I could look at. So, but anyway, I kind of wanted to talk a, a little bit about getting this garden rolling. Not so much a garden, but these plants are rolling. And it makes me kind of happy to know, I've got some pretty greenery, something that will end up being nice to have because go pick a few fresh leaves of basil, cilantro, get you a fresh thing of garlic. But yeah, and like I said, we have wild blackberry and raspberry right here. We've also got rhubarb. It's nice to find in the wild. Um, Poke salad. It's essentially just a salad green that you often fry up like you would uh, collard or mustard greens or any other green. Eat them that way. They're good. And there's also dryland fish, as we call it, or as they're better known as morel mushrooms, which people often get them, soak them, uh, cut them up and flour them and fry them. So, I mean, there is stuff you can forage as well. That might be an interesting one to see if I can find a way to start a little growth of morel mushrooms, some grow my own dryland fish, which you can grow your own mushrooms. People do it with shiitake and um, portobello. Yeah, I might have to see if there's a way I can do that. But yeah, usually when you go looking for them in the wild out here, they call it dryland fish hunting. But anyway, just thinking about some fresh eats and growing things. Just kind of a ramble, I guess, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Anyway, as always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, later.